Ladies and gentlemen, more bad news from the Gulf War. We now have desalination plant being hit. Clearly, the Iranian president issuing an apology didn't work because many Gulf countries still continue to be hit and things are getting worse. We're going to likely to see a bigger oil shock and spread beyond oil right now. Let's just watch on, shall we? So for starters, I think this war is really a war of bad guys versus bad guys. And Trump is no angel, neither is the Iranian leaders any angel. So both sides are really fighting against each other. The fog of war is really cloudy. It's difficult to see who's right, who's wrong, who's telling the truth, who is having the moral high ground, and so on. But we know one thing for sure: the disruption in the oil and now beyond oil is happening, and probably the probability of crash buying is coming, and we'll talk about that later. So, first of all, the Iranian president apologizes to the neighbors in the Gulf. So, President Massoud actually issued a formal apology to neighboring countries, stating that we didn't intend to attack you, and as long as missiles and rockets are not originating from your country to attack us, we will not attack you. Absolute rubbish, right? So we now have attacks still going on. In fact, yesterday night, one of our 1065 follower, her name is Jennifer. She is staying in UAE. She has experienced continual attack and bombing around her house area, and that's despite the presidential proclamation that they will not attack their neighbors anymore. So Jennifer's experience is not unique. So Iran is still attacking Gulf countries, as we can see from the news report. So we have got Saudi Arabia still experiencing drone strikes into their country. We got Bahrain experiencing critical infrastructure being targeted and damaged. And now Kuwait has few infrastructure being attacked by their drones as well. And the Straits of Hormuz, unlike what the Iranian foreign minister and the president has said, the Straits of Hormuz is being attacked. And we will give you some real case studies now. So the Iranian drones are repeatedly attacking the Gulf states. Right now, more attacks are going on in a massive way. But to be frank, the Iranian drones are actually cheap. So they can build one for $30,000 and just send it to the skies. And these are very effective, low cost weapons. And more importantly, it's very difficult to shoot them down because they're so cheap. So the interceptors are very expensive. So they fire a salvo of them. Which one are you going to shoot down? Your interceptors could cost millions of dollars versus their 30 over thousand. So it's now a war of money, right? Seeing who has more money to fight this war. So strategic infrastructure clearly are being attacked right now. Bahrain has a desalination plant being attacked. So this is a first time that water infrastructure is being attacked in the Gulf country. And this is critical because Gulf nations rely almost entirely on desalination for drinking water. So millions of civilians depend on these facilities. And to be fair, Singapore also, but maybe we have a less dependent because we got more water falling from the sky. But they really need desalination in a big way. So clearly right now, from military infrastructure, Iran is now attacking civilian infrastructure and causing more disruption and damage. Just to elaborate on desalination plant, desalination plant are water supply, and they clean up water for you. I will not go into the science of it. And Gulf region, these are water security dependent infrastructure. So they hold about 60% in the Gulf region, 60% of global desalination capacity, 400 plants across the region. So attack on this infrastructure is existential, and if they step up the attack, then that's a big issue. So these are the percentages of dependence on desalination. You can see it's very high in Kuwait, Oman, Saudi Arabia, and UAE. And clearly, this is something that Iran is now hitting below the belt. So the Straits of Hormuz, despite what the foreign minister say, you can sail through. We are only attacking U.S. and Israel and their allies. Well, a UAE flag tugboat, okay, was being struck in the Straits of Hormuz. The vessel exploded, leaving now three Indonesian crew members missing and possibly dead. So, so this is clearly some comments I made yesterday coming to pass. The Iranians are not trustworthy people, especially military leaders and their leaders. So we should not take their word too seriously. Now, Israel, on the other hand, also hit below the belt. They went after the oil storage near Tehran, okay, and hit their oil infrastructure storage facilities. And this is usually is avoided by military, but Israel now says that these are used by military, logistic, and operation infrastructure, so strike them. Well, unfortunately, this clearly is an escalation of the war. So Iran came out and said that, we can fight for at least 6 more months. Basically, they're telling Trump that you can or not, I can, can you fight for 6 more months? So the White House hope to wrap this up probably 4 to 6 weeks, maybe even 8 weeks. I don't think they envision a war up to months, of a prolonged months to say. So I think that this will provoke Trump quite a bit, and let's see who's gonna prevail in the end. I think there's a chance that what Professor Chiang, a U.S. Based professor, she was actually formerly born in Beijing, but later, as a young man, go to Canada. He actually made three predictions. Trump will win election, Trump will attack Iran, and Iran will win. Looks like Iran will win. So now that could also tell us that Iran seems to have internal division. Here, the president is apologizing, and next minute, the rest are still attacking. So it basically say either their internal division or communication is now all broken down, which is the equally likely as well. So I don't think this is gonna go away soon. So there is another controversy. A girls' school in Iran was being bombed, killing many students, sparking some international controversy. So of course the Iranians are blaming the Americans, and guess what? Trump and the Secretary of War is saying, looks like they bombed themselves. Okay, well, early evidence are saying otherwise. Seems to indicate that it's a U.S. Misguided weapon targeting the wrong place. But this is where I just want to say that, finger pointing bad guys against bad guys. Who's right, who's wrong? We'll never know. This is clearly a fog of war. So there's another area of hidden risk that many people didn't point out, but increasingly might be a big issue, is that the Persian Gulf, is critical as a route for nitrogen fertilizers to come out. So the amount of fertilizers that come out from the region is about $50 billion worth. So if the Gulf is disrupted, then maybe a food crisis may emerge as well, that could span across many countries that we have seen on the slide here. So we shall watch and see whether there's an alarm that food crisis will emerge. Okay, we saw an initial crisis when Russia struck Ukraine. There was a cry for fertilizers, but now we are seeing it here. Let's watch and see this space carefully as well. So what will happen next? Now, yesterday I did a talk. I used a powerful large language models to run, and the basic analysis is quite conclusive and quite intuitive as well. We need first a serious oil shock. Oil prices must go beyond $100 to 150. That's already around the region already. And we need to have a prolonged war, okay, prolonged disruption to oil. If these two come to pass, or at least there are strong signs that these two is happening, then there's a high possibility that the crash in the stock market could come, and that could be a time that I've been waiting for quite some time, and that could be a crash buying signal. So I'm watching this space very closely. I can't tell with precision whether this will happen, but the likelihood clearly is increasing. So we are now looking at this space very clearly. Oil shock is likely to worsen and prolong. So these two words is important: worsen and prolong. And if these two were to happen, our crash buying opportunity may be here. So my space very closely on YouTube, also in our Telegram group, and I'll see you in my live stream. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.